All right, next we will have Chuck Caruso with the paper, The 19th Century American Literary Roots of Magical White Privilege in HBO's Lovecraft Country. A 19th century Americanist and Poe scholar, Chuck Caruso, PhD, teaches English and creative writing at the Seattle College. He is one of the featured academics in the PBS documentary Edgar Allan Poe, Buried Alive. His debut crime novel, The Lawn Job, published by Cloud Lodge in 2017, won the Independent Publisher Book Award for Best Original Fiction. His short fiction has appeared online, been published in a variety of print magazines and anthologies, and collected in The Meaning of Blood and Other Tales of Perversity, also published by Cloud Lodge. Chuck, please take it away.
Thanks, Misha. And thank you to all of the organizers. Good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen here. All right. I apologize from the beginning that these slides are very dense, but I wanted to provide information. So I'm not planning to talk to every single point on these slides. Don't worry about that. I just wanted to make this information available to you. So as we all already know, since at least the early modern era, identity is performative and culturally constructed, but definitely performative. And this is an idea people being created equal, which is, of course, central to the foundation of America. And I think that this is important for us to keep in mind as we think about the American Gothic as distinct from sort of the larger Gothic. And one of the problems there that we find, one of the things that animates a lot of American Gothic is the necessary sort of haunting of the post-Enlightenment mind with racism and misogyny, because of course, if the country is founded on this idea of equality, it very quickly turns out that the white men who founded the country actually wanted hierarchy. They just didn't want the hierarchy that they had before. So they have to start coming up with strategies to reinforce a hierarchy that they already know is contradictory to their core beliefs. We start to see legal fictions, pseudoscience, and new variations on Christianity as ways to preserve hierarchy. So from that, I would say that we can see that, at least in America, white supremacy and white superiority is always already a product of magical thinking. For those of you who are not familiar with the American Gothic, here's a list of some sample works. I would just point out that the themes are very similar to what we see in the rest of Gothic literature, global Gothic literature, but not surprisingly, in American Gothic, the overriding themes, the obsessions are around voice, agency, and self-determination, with a particular reference to uncanny doubles. That is one of the main things that you see in the work of Edgar Allan Poe, for example, is an emphasis on uncanny doubles. So as a side piece to this idea of American Gothic, particularly in the post-Civil War era, we start to see issues of passing, issues of race being woven into Gothic stories. Particularly, I would point out Kate Chopin's Desiree's Baby. If you're not familiar with the short story, this is a story. I won't reveal the twist so that you can enjoy it, but a newborn baby reveals the secret racial identities of its parents, and these sorts of things start to become more prevalent in American fiction, not just Gothic fiction, but I would argue that this is a Gothic element even in fictions that are not themselves Gothic. Mark Twain deals with these similar issues in Pudd'nhead Wilson, which involves a baby swap, where a fair-skinned slave woman, following that sort of one drop of blood makes you black and makes you subject to slavery, she swaps her own baby with the master's baby, and the babies are raised in sort of a sociological experiment in sort of the opposite circumstances. Then into the 20th century, we start to see things like the autobiography of an ex-colored man. Originally, this was published anonymously to encourage readers to take it as nonfiction. And of course, it produced a lot of anxiety in the white readership, who suddenly were concerned that the other could be walking among them undetected. Similarly, Nella Larsen's Passing is a 1929 novel about two mixed race friends, similar to the Twain story. We have sort of parallel stories here. One woman is passing, the other is not. This all leads us into what happens in, oh, by the way, quick aside, Passing is being adapted, the novel is being adapted as a Netflix, I believe it's a series rather than a movie, but watch for that in the next year or two. So passing narratives do a couple different things. They literalize enlightenment provoking these external anxieties about people who don't know their place. We're familiar with that term, but it also again reiterates this idea that that the magic charm of white privilege is always a product of magical thinking. By the way, in the episode where they're doing research in the library, on the library wall in the background, you see a picture of W.E. Du Bois. I suspect that they're trying to make a reference to his idea of double consciousness there. So in Strange Case, we have a passing story. The title, I think, alludes to both Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, not an American story, but an important story about uncanny doubles. It also refers to the H.P. Lovecraft canon. In the IMDb, I love this description of this episode. After making a devil's bargain with William, Ruby steps into the charmed shoes of a white woman. I particularly like that turn of phrase, the charmed shoes. It indicates the magic, and it also Riley makes a joke about the conclusion of that episode, which I think we can interpret as sort of the literalized horror of the white male privilege being subject to the own sort of treatment that it allows on Black and female others. Moving quickly then to the Jigabobo episode. This also pulls directly from 19th century and early 20th century American literature. The character of Topsy is from Uncle Tom's Cabin. There is not a Bopsy character there, but Topsy's double in Uncle Tom's Cabin is the sort of angelic Eva, who she is in sort of this doubled fiction condition with Topsy. Topsy is portrayed in the sort of the most racist terms you can imagine. She's described as goblin-like. She's the blackest of her race. She has woolly hair. She sort of creates or reinscribes the pickaninny stereotype and serves as that foil. I think that the introduction of Bopsy into Lovecraft Country twins Topsy, and it reiterates that uncanny doubling that Diana experiences. And as these figures follow Diana, I would suggest that she is haunted and not able to escape these images, particularly because they are racist images, which she feels herself being doubled by society, by the racist cop and others. And this episode, I think, underscores that by showing us a collection of sort of commonplace racist images of the time. We see an advertisement for Uncle Ben's rice. We see the cover of the Uncle Tom's Cabin book, all those sorts of things. Another thing I wanted to point out here is about Uncle Tom's Cabin. In some ways, it is the most important book of the American 19th century. It outsold everything except for the Bible during that century. It was credited by just about everybody, up to and including Abraham Lincoln, as inspiring the American Civil War. And so it really sort of drove the abolitionist movement. However, it introduces and perpetuates a whole variety of racial stereotypes. And Harriet Beecher Stowe's primary concern was not with humanizing Black people, but with showing the immoral and dehumanizing effects of slavery on white people. So that white gaze is always fascinated with itself rather than with this other, which is still deprived of agency and voice. And this goes, I think, to or can go to our discussion of what business Matt Ruff has writing the novel Lovecraft Country. So we'll get into that a little bit further. Of course, Uncle Tom's Cabin then goes on to inspire all sorts of Jim Crow era racist entertainments, where again, harkening back to Shakespearean times, when men would play women on stage because women were not allowed, of course, to play themselves. We have that same sort of situation where white people in blackface would play Black people in these minstrel shows, again perpetuating these racist stereotypes. That's my reading of Jigabobo. Is that it is showing this uncanny doubling and showing the way that, and in fact, it enacts Diana's loss of voice. She's silenced, and it disables the arm that she uses to draw her superhero comics, which is resolved throughout the rest of the series. So to include, I would suggest that white privilege is always magical, but it's a tautological magic. The same magic that derives from white privilege is the magic that's used to enforce it. And I think that both of these episodes in particular draw from the 19th century American literature, Gothic tropes, specifically the uncanny double. Thank you. Here's my contact information. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks, Misha. I'll turn it back to you.